Unforgiving Racing. And then it's Antonio Felix Costa down in 10th for DS Techeetah, who won a championship here in the past. Sam third for Jaguar TCS Racing, right down there in 12th. 22 points on the board for him. Nick Cassidy in 13th. Sebastian Buemi, our Season 2 champion, down in 14th. And closing up the grid is Antonio Giovinazzi. So there we have it. Let's take a look at the Teams Championship points. Mercedes EQ, it's been a dominant start for them, particularly with Stoffel Vandoorne, 15 points ahead of DS Techeetah. And Jaguar Racing, be interesting to see how they do this weekend, given it's been a tough one for them. Now, joining me in the comms box is Karun. Over to you for the track guide.
Thank you, Nikki. Yes, it's this is the first of a double header here in Berlin. The first track we're using goes anti-clockwise as we go winding around this fantastic apron at the Tempelhof circuit. Turn 6 will be where the attack mode is activated for the afternoon. They will be using it in free practice today just for the drivers to get an understanding of how fast they can enter that attack mode. They do need to practice that, because when you get to the race, you want to use as little time as possible.
Thank you very much, Karun Chandlik there, former Formula 1 and Formula E driver. You've had a lot of experience in the Formula E car. But what's been interesting is obviously this is our, I think, 14th race here in Berlin. Let's take a look at the track temperature at the moment. Just 17 degrees. It's a bit cooler, 15 degrees. I think we're probably expecting a little bit of heat later for the race. But Karun, yeah, we've got so much experience. It's the only event that we've seen here every season of Formula E.
Yeah, I mean, it's a track that drivers like John-Eric Verne, who've been in the championship from season 1, really, they're very familiar with, you know. And I think it's an unusual circuit. It's an unusual surface as well, as we're going to be talking about throughout the day. But it's funny, it's one of those tracks, because we've been coming here so often in the past, you can look at the history of form for this sort of circuit. Oliver Rowland, a former winner here, of course, and he was fastest in the free practice session this morning. Incredibly closer in this morning session. We had 17 cars within half a second. And the top 6 within a tenth.
Yeah, it's quite unbelievable, isn't it? I was talking to Sylvain Philippe earlier, and he just said, you know, we always talk about it being the most competitive series in motorsport, but it really is. There's Lucas Di Grassi in the Rocket Venturi there, of course. He's our Season 3 champion. Actually, the Rocket Venturi guys were really strong in practice, and Lucas Di Grassi is one of the most celebrated drivers here. He's won twice. He's had 5 podiums here. So I think the combination of Lucas Di Grassi, of course, with Edin Montoya now at Rocket Venturi, is going to be a really strong pairing for this weekend.
Yes, they managed to upset the team and each other, really, by colliding in Monaco. So hopefully they can move on from that. This is that big round 270-degree left-hander turn 1. A real challenge for the drivers when you enter at such high speed through turns 2 and 3, a tight double right-hander. Before the track starts to open up here, you do this left-hander, as we see the Envision car there. Nick Cassidy just weaving around, trying to warm up his tyres a little bit. Down back straight, you see the cars bouncing around. Just actually from this high shot, we could see it's like the quilted patchwork, isn't it? You see in the surface there, in each of the little joints, you see the cars just bobbing around a little bit. It's not as bumpy as some other places we go, but you get this sort of, you know, this sort of frequent bobbing around, really, I should say, as you go through every one of those joints.
Can't be very comfortable being a driver in that position. Or do you just get used to it on street circuits?
Well, that's why they get paid the big bucks. Yeah. So, you know, too bad.
Well, there's Stoffel Vandoorne, our current championship leader. I mean, what a ton of events for him. I think he had such a tough season, didn't he, last year? A lot of bad luck, ultimately, but we've always seen the real potential from Stoffel at Mercedes EQ. And obviously, I think across the other side, when you've got your teammate, Nick de Vries, who did so well last year, he's the defending champion, Stoffel Vandoorne, finally, luck has gone his way. He had that win in Monaco. He's been on the podium in Diriyah and in Rome. Things are really looking very positive and strong for him this season.
Yeah, he's been a great run of form. You know, he was a bit unlucky.
Hey, team managers from Race Control, just so you guys are aware, at the exit of kind of turn 5, there's a debris flag out. We're getting a little bit of a water leakage coming from one of the hospitalities, so just be aware.
Okay, so turn 5 is the little kink right-hander before the back straight heading towards the attack mode. So we'll have a look at that when we get there. Fortunately, these cars are all on treaded tyres, so a little bit of water. And turn 5 is a pretty comfortably flat corner, so it shouldn't really affect them. They're accelerating straight on anyway. But back to Van Dorn. Yeah, he's having a bit of a purple patch, isn't he? As you said, unlucky last year. Should have had more success really in the championship. And here there is a little bit of a warning flag, but I can't see enough there that's going to trouble the drivers, so they'll just carry on with their running program, I'm sure.
Okay, so it looks like it's Nick de Vries who is currently quickest in this session, but obviously still very, very early days. Actually, both Mercedes drivers there at the top. I think, yeah, Stoffel Van Dorn, he described his car after the Monaco race as a rocket, which is exactly how you want to be able to describe your car, isn't it?
Yeah, he drove a great race. I mean, you have to say he was a little bit lucky that Pascal broke down, because I think Verline was looking on course to take that win actually for Porsche. He gained track position after the attack modes, but you got to, the old adage, isn't it? To finish first, you got to be there.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of almost there, Jean-Eric Verne, I mean, he hasn't finished first this season yet. However, he's second in the Driver Championship standings. So I think, again, we talk about this in Formula E quite a lot. It's about consistency. It's not necessarily about winning races. You've just got to have a really consistent season. And obviously, that's how you can tie up the championship. And there he is. Let's see how that goes.
Watch his hands, Nicky's, just constant little corrections here. And this is something that, is quite common in Formula E. The cars, obviously, they haven't got huge wings creating drag and downforce. They've on treaded tires as opposed to slick tires, so the cars do tend to move around, which is great. It adds some challenge for the drivers. I think on street circuits particularly, it makes it quite interesting for them to have to hustle these cars around. As you see, Oliver Rowland here on a full power lap. So this is the man who was fastest in the first free practice session. He's going to come across a lot of traffic, and this is the problem when you go too soon with your full power laps. You're running out of sync from other people who are still winding themselves up, and you can sometimes get caught up in traffic. But let's have a look as he comes up to the line. This should, in theory, take him up the order, but only 8th with that lap.
So not as what we would expect after seeing his performance in FP1, that's for sure. But it's interesting how that now that the qualifying has changed, they do 220 kilowatt lap during the group phases, and then they do the full power lap during the sort of the duels. Let's have a look at Ede Mortara's lap. He's also on a 250 kilowatt lap.
Yeah, and just to finish your point, I think the harder thing is actually making sure you get through that group phase in the 220 mode. So I think it's almost more important for them to practice that 220 mode towards the end of the session and get the references and get fully prepared for qualifying. You see Mortara, as you said, on a full power lap, but he's stuck behind one of the Nissans. I can't quite, I think it's that Boemi in front of him.
Quickest in Sector 1 and Sector 2, so...
Yeah, but he's been held up here quite badly by that Nissan, so that is Boemi in front of him, so he's probably going to lose a bit of time in Sector 3 as it comes up to the line. He goes to the top of the times, but I think there's definitely more time on the table there.
It's interesting, isn't it, how Sebastian Boemi must be feeling, oh, there's actually Jerome D'Ambrosio looking at the timings. He's obviously former Formula E driver and has now stepped in as the team principal at Rocket Venturi. Sergio Sette Camara also putting in his 250 kilowatt lap. See what he can do for the Dragon Penske Autosport team.
And Lucas Di Grassi in the Venturi cars also on a high power lap, but he hasn't. I think he might have backed out of it actually. So let's follow Sette Camara on personal best in the first 2 sectors, about a 10th down on Mortara's time into the last corner. He's got a little bit of traffic as well, but I don't think it's going to hurt him. It's far enough ahead to give him a clear run. In fact, he might get a little bit of a slipstream. up to the line and goes second. So that's a good final sector there, actually, for Sette Camera.
I mean, now that we're in, what, rounds 7 and 8, we are nearly midpoint of the championship. When do these drivers start thinking about their drive for next year? I mean, as much as the championship title fight is important, they've got to secure their spot for next year.
What, now?
Yeah.
100%. You know, this is, you know, we're coming up to, as you say, midpoint of the year. Once you get to late May, early June, you're firmly into negotiations, because you know, you kind of want to have your deals done by August, latest by September, really, because you know, you don't want to leave it too late and see where the market falls. But also got new teams coming in, and we got lots of chopping and changing happening across the grid.
Yeah, so actually there was a bit of breaking news this morning. McLaren is joining Formula E. I mean, absolutely fantastic. I think Zach Brown obviously said that he wants to provide a great home for class-leading Formula E team that Mercedes have built, which has begun to become a fully fledged part of the McLaren racing family. So now on board with Sims, he's putting in a 250 kilowatt.
Yeah, so
Sims has been struggling a bit this season.
it's a little bit confusing, actually, because he did a lap very early in the session. He has a board to actually go to the pits, but he did a lap very early in the session, which was quite competitive. He did a 6.5 early on, and hasn't oh, sorry, he wasn't going, because there was the other car. Got confused there for a second, but he's come across the line to go fourth, so he's improved a little bit. But this is a replay of him at turn 7, pretty neat and tidy. A bit of a slide at turn 8, but wouldn't have cost him too much. So what's he done there? 6.4 compared to Roland. Roland's not really the representative lap here. Okay, let's take a look at Frines on his high power lap here, Nikki.
So Robin Frines, I mean, he's also been a very consistent driver so far this season, looking for his first win.
He's firmly in the championship battle, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
fourth
P4 at the moment.
Only 10 points.
3 podiums.
Yeah, only 10 points off Van Dorn, so he's right in that thick of the battle there. He's pretty close to the wall on the way out of 8 into 9. Gets nicely into that inside curve. Really, really good run through there, and he's done, in fact, the fastest time of anybody in that middle sector. Up to the last corner of the lap, little bit of instability just on the way in, but he caught it early on, and now heading up the line, move over to the left-hand side to take the shortest run to the line, and he does go to the top of the times.
You know, the Envision car has had a lot of pace. Nick Cassidy, also his teammate, said he's absolutely phenomenal. The pace that he saw from the car in Monaco. I think they had a few braking issues in Rome, but managed to get the car into the right operating window for Monaco.
It's interesting seeing what they're doing there. They're swapping the tyres from left to right on Van Dorn's car, and that's because on this direction that we're racing on, and I stress it's for today, because tomorrow we race the opposite way around, the same track. But the front right tyre in particular takes a hell of a beating around, you know, turn 1, and you got these sort of long corners, turns 10, turn 6, places like that, these long left-handers. So the teams swap them from left to right to try and just get a bit more mileage out of each set of tyres.
And what else are they doing other than, you know, coming back into the pit lane to have a tyre change? What's the conversation going on between the driver and the garage? Well,
so much of it these days is about the software side of things. You know, they've got to use the session to try and understand the efficiency. What's the best way in terms of energy recovery and deployment of the energy to make sure you're running the most efficient strategy out on track. There's also the chassis side. There's setup changes you can make to the suspension and to the ride height and all sorts of other bits and pieces to make sure that the car, the brakes as well, brake temperature is hugely important. Make sure you get that right, particularly for qualifying with the duels. When you get one lap, to make sure that the brakes are in the right temperature window for that lap is absolutely of paramount importance. Roland here, fastest of anyone, sector 1, pretty decent middle sector as well, and this should quite close to the wall on the way out. Bit of oversteer on the way out. Let's see what it does for him, and he goes second, about a tenth away from Frines. So good lap there from Roland.
Very nice. Yeah, it's interesting though. At Mahindra, you know, Oliver Rowland's doing well, but Alexander Sims, you know, absolutely no points on the board for him yet. I know he's not feeling that well this weekend, so we wish him all the best though. Pascal Wehrlein obviously looking to make amends for, well, it was just a computer shuts down, I think, or I should say car shuts down in Monaco. Complete loss of power.
Yeah, desperately unlucky for him. And I mean, this is a big weekend for that whole team, isn't it? 2 German drivers, German team on home ground. There's, I imagine, at least a reasonable amount of pressure on them collectively to deliver this weekend. So we'll see what he delivers on this lap, and he does go to the top of the time. So that's a very good lap there from Pascal Wehrlein.
Sam Bird is off, back out on track. Also, obviously, big news with Porsche again, that they will be supplying Andretti, Avalanche Andretti, with 2 cars for next season. So we'll have 4 Porsche cars on the grid.
So we're looking at the
Max Günther.
Max Günther here, Nissan's driver, who at the moment is near the bottom of the times, down in 21st place. It's not a great Sector 1. I think he might still be on a lower power mode doing his race preparation. And
But how tough is it coming into a race weekend? You know, Nissan have obviously struggled. They've had issues with their inverter. They can't do anything about it. Therefore, they can't really get necessarily that race pace out of the car. So you're coming into every race weekend knowing that there isn't a huge amount you can do to change it.
yeah, it's not exactly motivational, I imagine, for anybody in the pits. You know, nobody wants to arrive at a race weekend thinking they don't have a chance of a good result. And it's a bit confusing, that, to be honest, because, you know, I've heard and read them talking about this issue. But, you know, Buemi came up the order in Monaco and came, he qualified 14th or something, and they managed to get up well into the points. So, you know,
yeah, I think 8th.
Yeah, so it can't be that bad, because he made good progress at that track. You know, whether it's circuit specific is something that only they could really understand and tell us. But you know, it must be incredibly frustrating for them if they know they can't get a result.
We'll talk about frustration. Sam Bird, well, other than this season, he's the only driver to have won a race in every season in Formula E. He's one of the originals. He's done every race. But he's sitting down in P12 in the championship. Looking across the other side of his garage, Mitch Evans in P3 with 2 wins and a podium. Very tricky times for him.
And more than double the points.
Yeah.
As well. So
a long way to catch up. He's down on 22 points. Mitch Evans 72, 52 points in it. 50 points in it. My maths is bad.
Yeah, no, it's not great so far for Sam. I mean, he's got more than half the season to turn it around, and I think he's obviously very experienced in the championship, as you said, done every single race. So he's got the knowledge to know what needs to happen to turn it, what he needs to do to turn it around, I guess. But it's not easy to do. You know, this is a championship which is, it's got a very high quality field of drivers. You know, if you look up and down the grid, they've all raced in other categories very successfully. They all come with big CVs, and it's a tough championship in that respect. And we've also got this season now where, you know, the teams know these cars very well. They've raced with them for a few years now, and you've had this sort of convergence. So there's, you know, they've got to a point where they've all optimized their performances. So actually, it's difficult for drivers to make, you know, big gains in the middle of the year.
Another driver looking for a bit of a bounce back today will be Antonio Felix da Costa, who had 2 back-to-back wins here in Berlin and also wrapped up his title-winning championship here. So we'll be looking for a repeat performance of that, but it's not going to be easy, that's for sure. I mean, he's sitting P10 in the championship at the moment. Again, you know, he's got a big points gap, only down on 30 points compared to his teammate on 75.
I don't know if da Costa had a mistake there in the middle sector, because his first and third sectors were very good, but he had a fairly poor middle sector, lost half a second. This is turn 6. Oh yeah, a bit of a lock-up. And, oh yeah, there we go. Lock-up, went wide, missed the apex. That explains that. So Yeah, he lost half a second. Let's look at on board. Look at the front left there. And miles away for the apex. So that explains his time loss. So the car is obviously competitive, as we see Andre Lotra's on a personal best in the first 2 sectors. And he will be coming up to the line fairly soon to see what he could do in the Porsche. His teammate, obviously, at the top of the times at the moment, Pascal Wehrlein.
And let's have a look. And another personal best for him. It'd be nice to see the Porsche team do well here, wouldn't it? As you say, home race, make amends for a bit of bad luck in Monaco. Lots of fans here supporting them.
I think this track should suit them, actually, based on what we saw in Mexico. You know, it's a very abrasive, grippy surface here, and a bit that was the case in Monaco. It was the case in Mexico, which were the other 2 tracks where they showed great speed. And you know, so based on that sort of form, I'm not entirely surprised to see Wehrlein at the top of the times, and I expect to see him right in the fight for pole position later today.
So the field has definitely spread out a bit, hasn't it? It's not quite as tight as it was in FP1 when we saw those 6 drivers all within 1/10 of each other. Oliver Turvey now on his 250 kilowatt lap. Oliver Turvey managed to secure a few points.
Oh, he was not happy about Wehrlein. Yeah, he was not happy about Wehrlein getting out of the way. Turvey,
that's a shame,
giving him the classic racing driver little brake test on the way out, saying, "Oi,
little sign of
not
love.
happy with you."
And obviously this is so crucial for them. You know, you only get a couple of shots to practice your 250 kilowatt. You don't want to have somebody getting in your way and messing it up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I understand his frustration here. Let's have a look. You can see Wehrlein. So this was the fast corner, 7 and 8. He got behind Wehrlein, but I think the issue came at the next corner. Actually, turn 9 was where he felt he was blocked.
So yeah, Oliver Turvey managed to get a couple of points for the team in Rome. Other than that, the Neo team struggled a bit. Dan Tickton obviously managed to get 1 point for them. So Edo Mortara, teammates to Lucas Di Grassi. The Rocket Venturi team have done well there in the past.
So
He's on the podium.
Yeah, Mortara on a good lap at the moment. He's up on Wehrlein's time in the first 2 sectors. And so we'll see if he can get it clear. He's got a bit of traffic on the last corner, so that could hurt him a little bit. Bit of oversteer as well. It's Van Dorn in front of him. Mortara might get a little bit of a tow, but he goes for the shortest line. He does go to the top of the time, so that's a good lap there from Edo Mortara. And I can tell you that Robin Frines was on the lap, but he didn't improve as well on that one.
So that's Antonio Giovinazzi there, we just saw. And that is the team principal, Jerome D'Ambrosio at Rocket Venturi. Very happy with Mortara's lap there. P1.
You couldn't tell looking at his face, could you? When he was happy. You've assumed that.
He was focused. There's a lot of assumption going on here, Kareem.
Right, Boemi now on a high power lap. So he's down in 20th. His teammate just ahead of him on the timesheet. So yeah, not looking great for Nissan so far. Let's see how they get on. Turning into turn 4 and 5, just opening up the wheel and unleashing the car onto the straight. It's about taking the line of least resistance. Every degree of steering lock you put into the car just saps power and saps performance. So he's done a good first sector. 22.89 is a very competitive first sector, but this middle part of the lap, this is where the meat of the lap is, with quite a few corners coming one after the other. And he's lost a little bit, but he's still in that sort of Frines, Roland area. So if he can get a good last sector, he could get himself in the top 5 at the end of this lap.
Let's have a look. And oh, he's gone second quickest. Very good for Sebastian Buemi there.
That's a great lap. Yeah, really good final sector, fastest of anybody. So that's gone from near the bottom of the times right into the fight at the front. I mean, it just shows, doesn't it, how close it is.
Too much understeer, apex of 6, apex of 7.
So Sebastian Bremy complaining about too much understeer there. Little slide. Okay, so what's he thinking now then? I won't make any assumptions. Jerome D'Ambrosio is thinking, gosh, there's a lot of pressure moving up from being a driver into team principal.
He's been there a while now. He can't still be thinking about that. Try again.
But, okay.
He's thinking about lunch.
Lunch, yeah, okay, yeah. Actually, surely it's brunch still. It's only 9:20 here. But, I mean, that is quite a big step up, going from driver to team principal. Would you like to do a role like that? Would you?
Yeah, I mean, with the right team and the right opportunities, I think it would be interesting to do. You know, look, it's just a different skill set. There's a lot of people management involved. I think, you know, that's probably one of the biggest challenges, really. You know, as a team principal, you're not there to engineer the car. You're not there to make the car faster. And you're not there to tell the drivers how to drive. You're there to just make sure that you're putting the right people in the right place and creating a structure that they can all bring out the best in themselves. But you're also there to manage the commercial side. You know, do the deals with the sponsors, do the deal with technical partners, and make sure that politically as well you're putting your team in the right position.
All right, so that was Mitch Evans there, currently in P5. Now we're going to have a look at Sam Bird's lap to see what he can do. Can he go quicker than his teammate Mitch Evans?
So he's a little bit down in the first 2 sectors, not by much, only by half a tenth. So if he can put the last sector of the lap together, he could drag himself in the top 5 as well. Comes across the line and only 14th. So yeah, lost more time in the last sector there.
So, question is, can Sam Bird get himself out of this tough period that he's going through at the moment? I mean, we've seen so much sort of performance from Sam Bird in the past. It's quite surprising to see him down in P12 in the championship at the moment. This is Dan Tickton, who's new to the series this season. This will be his first experience racing here in Berlin this weekend. He managed to score a point for the Neo 333 team though, which was great down when we were in Rome.
He is quite a character, Dan, isn't he? I think he's good. You know, he's
into his fashion.
He's into his fashion. This is
you
true.
can always spot Dan Tickton arriving in the pit lane, that's for sure. Normally got a little Gucci number on.
Or at the airport.
Or at the airport, indeed. The Louis Vuitton.
There's
right. So Alexander Sims.
Sims sliding around through turn 1. Doesn't really seem to have the back of the car underneath him there. He was quite wide away from the racing line. That's the trouble in this circuit here. If you go away from the racing line too much, you get on the dust and the marbles, and then you get into the cycle of struggling for grip. So his sector time down by some margin there. I think a lot of that was from going wide at turn 1.
So 4 minutes left of free practice 2. It's Eddie Mortara who's been the quickest so far for the Rocket Venturi team. Bremy in P2, Pascal Verline, followed by Robin Freins and Mitch Evans. Stoffel van Dorn, our championship leader, is in P7. But we've still got a few minutes to go. Now I suppose the focus is going to be, you know, practicing their 220 kilowatt laps, because that's what they're going to be doing next, going into qualifying in the group stages. And that is what you've got to get right to secure yourself a start from P8 or above to get yourself into the duels.
Yeah, exactly that. So, you know, that's a very decent lap from Sims, actually, for 220, 7-1. That's, you know, that's sort of in the ballpark of what we've seen from other people. I think for maybe 2-3 tenths off, but it's going to be super tight. I mean, you know, let's be honest, this battle for getting into the top 8 is super close.
Oh, bit of a lock up there.
Byrne Bit of a lock up, but he managed to gather it all together and just hold it tight enough to stay away from those marbles there. So that's a decent run. He's got one of the Andretti's in his way who gets out of his way, which is good for him there. Heading now down towards, we switched to Da Costa. So this is his teammate, Antonio Felix Da Costa, through turns. So both Techeetah cars on their high power modes at the moment. Jev's done at 23.09 for the first sector. Da Costa a little bit quicker, 22.98, so about a tenth faster for Da Costa. Now Verne about a tenth and a half down as he gets to the second sector of the lap. We are looking at him here coming up to the last corner with traffic in front of him. Oh, bit of a lock up, but yeah, and a very scrappy exit as well. So he's got behind Van Dorn and really scrappy run for the final corner. So there's time left on the table there for Verne. He does a personal best with a 6.6, but I suspect he'll be a bit frustrated with that lap. His teammate Da Costa gets himself into the top 6 though with a 1 minute 6.2. Oh, bumped by Jake Dennis, so he's now 7th.
Which, yeah, would have been on the bubble in qualifying back in the old days. But there we go. We can see the, so what is it? 2 tenths between the top 6 now. So it's spread out a little bit. But again, you know, the top 21 drivers all within a second of each other. So, right, it's a replay now of trying to make Verne's move there. But as you say, you know, this is the last year with this generation of car. So there is such a small amount of additional time that these drivers can get out of the car.
Yeah, exactly. So here's Cassidy. So he's on his high power lap. Let's see what this does for him. Can he get in the top 10 with this? And no, a long way off. So only 19th for Cassidy. I mean, that's a big gap, really, considering his teammate is up in 4th.
Okay, so all eyes on Sam Bird. Can he get himself into a good position to give him that confidence to go into qualifying?
2 tenths off as we get to turn 9. James Barclay watching on as he's caught. Oh, that's compromised in there. I think that was set to camera just on the park on the racing line, and that's. It just means that Sam's had to turn into the last corner a bit tighter than he would have liked, and that's yeah, his last sector's gone away there, so that's hurt him down in 15th at the moment.
Although you know, we were talking about the fact that lots of the drivers are going to be having those conversations about their racing positions and seats for next year. I'm sure James Barclay is very happy that he's got both his drivers secured for next season.
I tell you what, though, Lottre's done a very good first sector. He's fastest of anybody. So that Porsche that we were talking about before, they, you know, they clearly got performance here. Let's see him come through. Is he going to get held up by Evans, though, in that middle part of the lap? Evans is not on a 250 kilowatt lap, whereas Lottre is, and Lottre has done a personal best, so it's still a very decent middle sector time. Evans gets out of the way. That's the right thing to do. Well done. And then last corner, good clean run for Andre. This could push him well up into the top 3 if he gets a good run to the flag, and he does go to the top of the time. So Porsche on top of this session, 1st and 4th. That's a good session for them on home ground. Very
nice indeed. Andre Lotterer, quickest in FP2 there, with a 1 minute 5.967. Definitely looking again for a bit of redemption after I think it was Oliver Rowland that took him out in Monaco. The home crowd is here to support him. There we are in the Mercedes garage. Quickly looking at this, the team, the times I should say. Now, Jake Dennis, what happened here? Let's look at the replay. Oh, a little kiss to the wall there. Hopefully not too much damage to the car.
I think he'll get away with that. It's the exit of 9. Yeah, just the tiniest of touches. I think he'll get away with that.
Yeah, they had a lovely event last night, Avalanche Andretti, to announce their Porsche partnership for next season. Hopefully not too many sore heads in the paddock from that today. And there we are in the DS Techeetah garage. So now there's not much time for the teams and the drivers to regroup, get their heads together, because it is less than an hour until qualifying starts. Drivers now lining up to just put in their practice starts. Envision Virgin, or I should say Envision. There's the Porsche lining up as well.
The sun's threatening to come back out, isn't it? It's just thinking about it.
The sun is threatening, but I also feel like the rain is threatening.
Well, I was told by a...
It feels a little damp and cold in the air.
I was told by a German official in race control that it's not going to rain. He categorically told me it's not going to rain.
Right, okay, fine. We're going to hold him accountable.
Yes, I have told him that I'll come back and see him if it does.
Random fact for you. Got into my hotel room last night and someone had delivered 25 umbrellas.
Into your room?
Yep.
Did you bring them in for us?
No idea why.
Why not?
Maybe they were telling me something, but it is going to rain today.
Well, it would be nice for you to spread the love of those umbrellas. I didn't get any.
Well, the box is very heavy. They're still sitting in my hotel room.
Oh.
So sorry. Maybe tomorrow. At least we've got 2 shots at this.
This is true. This is true.
Right,
so,
okay, so there we are.
Techeetah with the...
John McVan.
He will be a bit frustrated with that, I think, because he obviously made that little bit of an error at the last corner, his best lap, so down in 17th. But De Costa, he'll be there in qualifying, won't he, Jeff? He generally, when the pressure ramps up for qualifying, he's pretty good at delivering.
He's a man that can deliver. Yeah, that is true. Doesn't crack under pressure. I'm sure isn't that his Tag Heuer line coming out. Quick chat there with the team, debriefing on what the experienced out on track. Mitch Evans, I think, really looking for another win after the double win in Rome. Just missed out in Monaco. Right, let's take a look at what happened in FP2. So it's Andre Lotterer for Tag Heuer Porsche with a 1 minute 5.96 seconds, quickest of the session. But narrowly behind him, Edo Mortara for Rocket Venturi. Sebastian Buemi looking quick here for the Nissan Edams team. Oliver Rowland, who's won here before, for Mahindra P9, Stoffel Van Dorn P10, and Sergio Sette Camera for Dragon Penske Autosport. A good time for Sergio Sette Camera there. Max Günther, P12, Oliver Turvey, that was a good run for the Neo 323 team in P13. Lucas de Grassi, one of the most successful drivers here in Berlin, down in P14. Sam Bird for Jaguar TCS Racing, not as quick as his teammate, P16. And Nick de Vries, our reigning champion for Mercedes EQ in 18. Okay, so let's take a look at what happened during this session. Or maybe it's the end of the session. We'll go to the highlights in a minute. So Sam Bird there, he is going to be just feeling a bit disappointed, I suppose, a bit deflated.
Yeah, he's got to try and drag himself out of this slump a little bit, hasn't he? You know, it's
difficult though. How do you do that? It's not easy.
No, it's
once
not.
It seems like, once you're in the momentum of a slump, the technical term.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to rely on the team, and they've got a good team of people there. They've got a really good team of people at Jaguar. They've got obviously the other car running competitively pretty much throughout the season, but particularly in the last 3 days. Still see Robin Fries and
always smiles for Antonio Felix da Costa. Yeah, down in P8. But yeah, I always feel, Sam Bird, I think he can be so hard on himself sometimes. He's not very forgiving on himself. He puts a lot of pressure on himself in terms of the performance and what he can deliver, I suppose, because he knows he can. Yeah,
but that's
driving.
That's his racing way, isn't it? That's racing. The person you've got to be most accountable to is yourself, really, because of performance that's on track.
Robin Fries will be relatively pleased with that one. Wandering back to the garage. Right, let's take a look at the fan boost. Now, let me guess. It's Stoffel Van Dorn. There we are, 20% of the votes for him. Yet again, Da Costa with 19%, almost as popular as Stoffel Van Dorn. Mitch Evans, Jean-Eric Verne and Nick De Vries. They're the top 5 drivers, the most popular drivers at the moment, and they will be awarded the Fan Boost. You can vote online at fiaformulary.com/fan boost. Remember, you can vote for today and once again tomorrow, but of course, only one vote per day. So get your votes in. Vote for your favourite driver. It really does make a difference to the race. Oh, there we are. Dan Tickton. What cap is that? Any idea what the label is?
No, I'm not fashionable enough.
Right, let's take a look at what happened in today's FP2 session here in Berlin. We've got all the cars out on track.
They all headed out early on. It was Jean-Eric Verne who we saw setting an early pace as he wound his way around this Tempelhof circuit. Oliver Rowland, he was fastest in this morning's pre-practice session, ended up 9th in the second one. As Lucas de Grassi for Rocco Venturi 14, and Robin Frines, he had a good run to finish up in the top 5, the fastest middle sector time of anybody there. Pascal Wehrlein for Porsche, he was 4th, and Antonio Felix da Costa ending up in 8th place for the Cheetah. A bit of traffic we saw in all sorts of, generally down at turn 9 actually, so quite a few people getting into a bit of trouble with traffic. Not so much for Edo Motora. He had an excellent run to end up second fastest, just 26 thousandths of a second behind this man, Andre Loeffler, who set the quickest time right at the end of the session.
Well, there we go. Another FP2 here in Berlin. The countdown really is on. Not long until qualifying gets underway. I do actually think the sun is about to start coming out, so that's going to change the track temperature a bit. All pressure is on our championship leader there, Stoffel van Dorn. Can he lead away from the rest of the pack? Be nice to get a few extra points on the board for pole position, but maybe Jean-Eric Verne, although he didn't do so well in that session. Join us in just under an hour for qualifying here at Berlin Tempelhof.